Greetings. What follows is an edited recording of a conversation between myself, Professor Mark Gura, and Rachele Dené Poth, an author, speaker, and teacher who has come to specialize in the use of AI-driven tools in education. Rachelle graciously agreed to visit the class I teach for Touro University's Graduate School of Technology, which bears the title Technology Integration for School Leaders. This was our last class of the semester, and I thought I would end with a lively, insightful discussion of artificial intelligence for teachers, an especially relevant and timely topic. Please share this video and subscribe to the channel so that more educators will see these materials. Well, there's Rachelle. It's great to see you again. Last time I saw you was 3 or 4 years ago at Future of Education Technology Conference in Miami Beach, where you graciously joined a panel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. That was, I think that was the first time back in person, right, for FETC?
that was an interesting panel because I got up there and made these assertions that every kid needs a robot, every kid should have a robot, every kid should have a robotic study partner or coach, and it was ahead of its time,
Yeah, I know, right?
18
Yeah.
months later, yeah, everybody's talking about it. Anyhow, Rachelle, before we talk about your wonderful article from Edutopia, let's talk about Rachelle a little bit so my students know who you are. You're an author, you're a speaker, you're a consultant, you're also, most importantly, a teacher.
I am. All those things. Yeah, I love school. And my students will say so often, why? Because I'm also an attorney. They'll say, why, what are you doing in school? Why did you quit being an attorney to be a teacher? And I said, no, I was a teacher first, and I decided to go to law school while teaching. I like learning. It's exciting. And being a teacher is the most important role that I have out of all of those things. I had been teaching for 5 years, and then I decided to go to law school just for my own personal fulfillment, not to quit teaching. But had it not been for law school and the experience that I had in building relationships with some of my professors and seeing the setting of a classroom and the experiences students should have and the relationship between a teacher and a student, like the power of mentoring, I would not be still in the classroom today or doing any of those things. So it changed me. It doesn't make me want to leave the classroom, it made me want to stay in the classrooms.
I'm very impressed with that. I know a lot of folks who left the classroom, but to make a commitment that no matter how many books you have out there or speaking engagements you're invited to do, that home base is the classroom. You teach in a middle senior high school.
Right.
Which grades do you teach?
I have my STEAM emerging technology course that I teach is for 8th graders. And then I teach Spanish to students in grades 9 through 12. So I have a good mix.
And you're one of those rare, to me, rare, and I look into schools all over the place, rare that you teach STEAM. That is remarkable. You know, you're not a science teacher or a technology teacher, or a math teacher or an art teacher.
Right.
And I gather you created that course, which I'll bet is a wonderful story that I'd like to investigate some other time.
And I did.
Yeah. I'll bet there's a terrific story behind that. As everyone has become inundated with all of this AI stuff, kids are going to cheat using AI, and teaching English isn't meaningful anymore. Certainly the writing part of it, and now all of these companies are putting out AI sniffers, and AI will do all of these tasks. There's all of these ideas, and there's legitimacy to all of them, but that's not what
Right.
I wanted for my last session with this group. I wanted to find a couple of nuggets that I thought were particularly rich. And then, as I ordinarily do preparing for one of these discussions, I Googled, and I found this article, and I didn't even realize at first you had written it. And I knew you had been talking about AI for at least a year. So that really clicked for me. It's a really great article.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And I'm very happy to recommend it to my students. I just want to quickly go over some of what's in here because we could spend hours talking about just this one article. The title is Seven AI Tools to
Mhm.
Help Teachers Work More Efficiently. But there's more in there than that. My particular agenda with this class is less using technology to get the work done, but more
Mhm.
using the technology to produce better instruction,
Right.
give the kids a better learning experience. And there's some of
Mhm.
that in your article too.
Yeah. I started to do research in August of 2017. And I wrote my first article about AI in January of 2018. And so it's been really fun to kind of just see in the last 6 years that I've been writing about, teaching about, presenting on AI, how much it has changed. And, Mark, you had mentioned like being at the conferences at like FETC and some of the larger conferences, 5 years up until November 2022, the end of November, before ChatGPT came out. I was one of very few people that were presenting on AI. And when I first started, I didn't really know a lot. I just dove into it because I knew that I needed to. And so the past year and a half, things have really changed. And so a lot of people are out there speaking about it. And there's so many tools that are out there's a website, there's an AI app for that. And if you go on it, it changes so much. It's unbelievable how drastic it changes like week by week. But back in December of last year, I think it was somewhere up around like 8,000 apps. And I'm not going to tell you what the number is today, but if you Google, there's an AI app for that. You can check that out. I enjoyed writing this one, and it's hard to narrow it down. And I tried to pick some that were distinct and different and offered something for every teacher. And I did get a lot of emails from people that said, hey, why didn't you include this one? Or did you hear about this one? I'm like, nobody wants to read an article about, hey, here are 100 tools, condense it down to 7.
Good. You made that point about how many tools are out there, let alone articles making a point one way or another. And it becomes our job to really narrow that down and unpack it so we can understand what this is.
Mhm.
We'll go very briefly look at the list, the 7 tools you include in the article. But, first it occurs to me that in talking to teachers about AI, it kind of reminded me about when computers and the web first came into the lives of teachers. So many of them were kind of intimidated. Oh my God, I need to know how to program and do all kinds of and no, to use Google Docs, you don't need to know anything like that. And I think people are working through the same thing with
Mhm.
AI. The first impression was, oh, I really need to know a lot about technology. I really need to know about coding.
Yeah.
But as we'll see when we go through your list, no, that's not what's confronting teachers. I think even the AI tag is going to go away. These are just modern tools.
Yeah.
It's all it is. And in a sense, it's like using a search engine. You type your prompt in and direct it to go and do what you tell it to do. Only this is not more than just a search engine. Not only does it go and find things, but it makes things out of the things it finds for you. One very simple way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, you curated this. Maybe you'll just make a brief comment about these 7.
Hmm.
So, audio pen.
Hmm. But what this tool does is you can open it up, on your phone. on your computer, it doesn't matter. And like I said in the article, for years, that's how I did a lot of my writing. Even the books that I've written, I would just go for a walk because self-care is important, open up a document and just talk and come back and fix it a little bit. And but this, you don't even have to worry about the period, comma, all of those different things. It just takes whatever you say and then it like generates a more concise or grammatically correct what you were trying to create, but it still keeps your original version of it and it just stores it. So it's just a fun one to use to just kind of create something really quickly or kind of elaborate on ideas that you have.
So now tell the truth.
Yeah.
When you go on your walk
Yeah.
and instead of writing your 2 pages for the day, you speak to audio pen. When
Mhm.
you get back from audio pen what you inputted verbally, how
Yeah.
faithful is it or how useful is it?
It's good because I will tell you that probably 7 years ago was when I started to use some of the voice to text, and I was at a conference in Milwaukee actually, and was on a break, and I had my phone, and I opened up I think it was just an email, a blank email, and I was just walking in the room because I had an idea for a blog, and I'm talking into my phone, and Don Wettrick. I think it was actually, and he said, "What are you doing? Are you on the phone?" I said, "No, I'm writing a blog." He said, "What? You're writing a blog?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just talking. I just had some thoughts. I'm just letting it go out." But I mean, Google was way better now with the voice and the speech recognition. But back then, you'd have to come back and say, like, what did I say that sounded like this? But audio pen is definitely, it's pretty good. I didn't notice any mistakes compared to the other times that I've used Google, for example, and then I've come back and had to really sift through what was I saying that sounded like this and then process it.
So this list is Rachelle's field tested pick hits,
Yeah.
things you use personally and you know to work well. And Magic Write, the Canva Magic Write.
Yeah. And so Canva, I mean, I picked one presentation tool, especially one that is education friendly, because there are a lot of generative AI tools out there to create presentations for you just from a prompt. But with Canva, especially with teachers, you want something that you know that's safe for students to use, and schools can actually turn on that functionality or turn it off, where students won't have access to all of the AI features that it has. But it's pretty neat what it can generate. It has some, give me some inspiration. So you give it a prompt and it'll give you some templates. And a lot of people have tried it already. I know some of my students were working on a project this week and about South America. And they were putting in the most ridiculous prompts to get images of real places in some of these South American countries. And it was just neat to see what it generated, but then to spark a discussion for it too. But for teachers, I mean, that's just one of the tools. And there are a lot of other presentation, like full-blown presentation tools that are out there. Nice that it can spark a little bit of creativity, help you to save some time that then you can give back and have time with your students, your colleagues.
I'm going to try that one myself. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds like I can play with it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's true for a lot of these things. First, there's a little learning curve, and then you get confident with it, and then maybe you can challenge it with some unlikely prompts or out of the box prompts. EduAid AI.
Yeah, that is, I try not to play favorites, but I'm going to play a favorite with EduAid for a couple of reasons. One, that tool, that platform has been created by two teachers who are still in the classroom. They are both from Pittsburgh originally. One still lives very close, I mean, not real close to me, but within a half hour. And the other one is, I think, in Maryland, and they're both named Thomas. But what I value so much about it is that they offer more than 100 resources, that they're in the classroom, so you know that it's authentic. They know what teachers need, what administrators need, and what's going to be the best for students. They also understand all of the issues that we have to focus on, like safety and data privacy, all of that, and they keep adding more and more to it. And so I recommend it all the time because for a teacher, here's a thing that I suggest, because there's so many tools out there, is grab a Post-it note. And if you go into a conference session or a webinar and it's one of those like 60 tools in 60 minutes or something like that, before you even go into that session, write down on a little piece of paper what are things that take up the most of your time? Like, what is a lesson that you teach that you're like, I don't have any more ideas for this? Or you have letters of recommendation, lesson plans, rubrics, whatever. Make that list. And then when you find out about a tool, if you can cross off a bunch of those things off of that list, then that's the one tool that you want to go to. And so I've done that pretty often in the last 6 or 7 months of the sessions I've been doing on AI. And teachers are all like really enjoying EduAid because it has so many resources and they can cross a lot of the things off on their list.
I hear you. I mean, it's easy for me to favor the improve instruction because I don't have the kind of workload that a working teacher has.
Right.
So here we come to I'll call it the culprit, the group that launched all of this wonderful craziness, OpenAI, which released ChatGPT. And
Right.
I think what's wonderful about it is that not only did they make this chatbot and offspring available free,
Mhm.
but they've put a bunch of material out for teachers,
Right.
so teachers understand how it works, how they can use it, and suggest what they can do with it. And
Mhm.
what would you add to that?
Well, the one thing that when this article came out too, is that when they launched that Teaching with AI guide, it gave, some different information, resources, the frequently asked questions that you could go to about, the information. Is it bias? What's the age? Everything that you're looking for. But the other thing I like about it also is that on that site, when you go to that, I know Dr. Helen Crompton, who I know you know, Mark, through ISTE, does a lot of work, speaks a lot on AI, has done tons of research. So she has information shared on there. And so the fact that they recognize that teachers were kind of offset a little bit by it and nervous by what does this mean for us in our classrooms, developing a guide with some of those questions that teachers had so that they knew where to go to find the answers to it. So that's just something that I thought was valuable about it.
Okay, so
Quizzes, yeah, it has been around almost as long as Kahoot, and it's another favorite because when I met their team, they were 3 university students studying in India, and I think that was back in 2015, maybe 2016. There's so much that it offers, but back in the fall, they added the AI enhancers, so you can take the URL of a YouTube video, you can upload a PDF or another document, a website, it'll generate a quiz for you. It can enhance the questions to make them real world scenarios or to put it in a theme. So think superhero or literary character or something relevant. But another reason that I really like it is a couple of weeks ago, they added on accommodation profiles into their platform. And so what that means is if you have students that have IEPs, 504 plans, or any of those different, things that we're using in our classrooms or accommodating for our students, often students will see that they are given a different format for an assessment than their classmates. And so with this, what they did is they built it in so when students are a member of the class, before you even project it on the board and play the game, would go in and you would define what types of accommodations you want for a student. And it could be things like reduced answer choices, extra response time, turning off the leaderboard, turning off the sound effects, extra opportunities to try it over and over again. And the best thing about it is none of the students know that they're getting anything different, because once you then put it onto the display on your board in the front of the room, everybody joins into the same game. So they're all playing, they're all getting the same content. They're just having whatever their needs are, what accommodations that they need, they're being met. And it is, again, something new. I just spoke on it a couple of weeks ago, and it's pretty awesome. So definitely recommend it if you've not yet heard of it, and then try that one out.
thank you. And slides go, I mean, I see it's to be used with Google Slides, a resource that every teacher has.
Right. So they have some different components of it. And so when you go to Slides Go, I mean, they have, free templates, everything available. Anyway, it's an AI presentation maker. So you basically do the same thing, you put your prompt in and you pick kind of like a style that you would like for the presentation, and it will generate it for you. And it's kind of neat to see what it comes up with. And then once it has been, created, you can then convert that over into your Google Slides in, and you can change the font and everything just like you normally would be able to. But I have created a bunch of them. I mean, you can type in a simple thing like, okay, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain and NFTs because that's a presentation I've been doing. And I just wanted to see what it would come up with. So I typed it in, and I loved the images that it put into it because they were way better than the ones that I had, but I kept my own content. So it's just a nice feature that you can just create something like really quickly like that.
That, to me, that sounds, I'll call it creativity intriguing.
Yes.
I mean, you said what it would generate, SlideSgo would generate, might be more imaginative, or you said better than what you would
Yeah.
create on your own, probably because you have access to a limited amount of raw material.
Right.
But I really like the part where you said you like how it surprises you
Mm-hmm.
what it comes up with. I see, I have an art background, so I can relate to that. But I would also think that I probably would want to be iterative with this. So
Mm-hmm.
if I got X from these prompts, how could I change the prompt set to move the outcome in a certain direction? Working with the AI tool, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole area that's going to be up and coming as people become more comfortable with this. They're going to want to play with it and kind of
Right.
control what comes out. Yesterday, in anticipation of this, Rachelle, on your recommendation, I went to Curapod and I registered.
Nice.
It didn't actually turn out exactly as I had hoped, but I don't know what I hoped for. I thought maybe I could be clever and come up with something for this class, but it seems to be a very robust tool set, but it has so many templates and things you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I discovered. This is my impression that the people behind this really looked at what's a typical school. How's a typical school organized, And so if you're working within that classic, again, this is my impression,
Mm-hmm.
if you're working within that classic, there's a social studies teacher and there's a writing teacher and a science. In other words, if you're teaching within the kind of traditional framework, then it's got stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want something, really outside of the box, this probably isn't the tool for you. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, I used it. Oh my goodness. It was yeah, a year ago, last March, I think, for the first time with my Spanish 3 class. And I just created a lesson for them on verbs, and they were like, "You're using PowerPoint?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's kind of like PowerPoint, but it's interactive." And so they really liked it. And then I also showed them how quickly it could generate an interactive lesson like that. Now, since that time, a year plus later, they have really added a lot more to it. Even already having things already generated for you to pick from, things you can change. So a lot of people are super excited about it. But for somebody who's looking to create a quick lesson, that the students aren't just going to sit and look at slides on the board as you speak to them, and you want to get that feedback from them so you can give them some assessments, it's a great tool to kind of just start with and to do some fun things in there too. They have like brain breaks and some questions that pop up like this or that to just take a little break from the lesson and have some fun.
Again, I think they understand the reality of teaching in the typical American school. Anyhow, I've kept you.
No, it's all good.
I think this is a good place to stop and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank
And
you.
on one hand, Rachelle, on behalf of the teachers of the planet, I want to thank you for the article because everybody can get something good out of it. And thank you very much for joining us
Yeah, of
and
course.
bringing some real expertise to my class.
Yeah, well, thank you for the invitation and for sharing my article. That's always fun. I had a,
Oh, how could I forget this? I'm glad I caught myself.
uh-oh.
What do you think about that, Rachelle?
I know it's
This is Rachelle's new book, How to Teach AI, and I'm reading it.
I wrote my first blog about AI back in January of 2018. And about 3 years ago, I think somebody had said to me, because I had stopped writing books, and somebody said, "Oh, you should write a book about AI." And so I started to gather and started to do some writing with some of the blogs I had and put some things together. But then instead of pursuing that, I decided I wanted to pursue my doctorate. So I put all that aside. And good thing, because had I not put all those things aside, I would have completely missed out like a big chunk of information from the last year and a half since ChatGPT and all these other different tools that have come out since then. So I did then get back to writing it back in the fall. And I'm excited to actually have it come out. I know there are a ton of AI books out there, and there are many more coming. But I'm excited about this one just because I really tried to make it as evergreen as I could. A big part of that book is focused on ethics also, and how to deal with working with students and academic integrity and privacy in chapter 2. And then there's some other things that you can use to get started. And I really wanted it to be something that anybody in any grade level content area could just pick up and find useful. So I'm super excited about it.
I should mention it's published by ISTE. So when is it going to be released?
It's on Amazon, but I think the release date is scheduled for July 30th.
How to teach AI, weaving strategies and activities into any content area. It's quite a book. There's a lot in there. Very comprehensive, very well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, thanks very much for joining my class.
Of course.
Final session. I will be in touch with you very soon, Rachelle.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Mark.